Good evening, everybody. I'm back again with Christ and comic books. And we are continuing with the Death Note series. We're next coming up on Volume 4. Like I said, we need to do Part 1. I just wanted to take a moment, though, to apologize for getting behind everybody and not doing the recordings I promised. You know, it's been, 2 weeks, almost 3, since the last video. Granted, I did get that one out just recently, but I need to get more consistent. So if I get behind, then I'm getting behind on progress. I'm not going to do that to myself or to you guys. So we're going to press forward and continue by doing Death Note. And we're reading with Volume 4. And what we have happening here is a new character introduction. But before we bring in this actual character, let's talk about what builds up to that. So with there being a second Kira involved in the story, they need... Who is it? Ryuzaki has decided that he's going to now go ahead and bring in Light. Yagami, who he still suspects could possibly be Kira, only the difference is at this point he's suspecting him at 5%. Now that's very weird, only because he doesn't make his suspicions hidden of Light. However, he gives it such a low value, so I find that rather interesting, how low the value is on him being considered to be the actual Kira. However, how much attention he still gives to suspecting him to be the actual Kira. So it wonders, one, is your suspicion still unclear of whoever else it could be? Or two, is he the only suspect that you have? So, of course, you're still keeping such a close eye. You know, that's some of the things to think about. But he came to the conclusion when discussing with the other officers that, hey, we're going to bring Light in. So Light finally gets that call while he's still, of course, contemplating, what am I going to do about this second Kira? How am I going to find them? What am I going to do? And Ryoki's, of course, finding this situation rather hilarious, which he always does. If you ever read it, you'll watch and see, little instances where you see him say, hyuk, hyuk. So he's kind of laughing at everything that's happening. Again, he's professed himself to just simply be watching. So he finds every instance where Light is struggling to be hilarious. So... And going forward, he goes over and he meets with them, and he's now going to be working with them. Of course, he has to tread softly, though. He has to make sure that the responses that he's giving aren't ones that will give himself away. So, for instance, Ryuzaki sets it up, otherwise known as L, sets it up to where now he can see some of the evidence. The tapes, the fingerprints that they have, the paper that was used, all of this stuff to show, what the second Kira has planned. Some of the stuff that hasn't been brought to the public, of course, about their research. And of course, he gives an answer that leads to L not necessarily suspecting him as much. It still, leaves a window of opportunity to be like, maybe he still could be or couldn't be Kira. But his answer was one of the safer answers, and what he's suspecting. To clarify that, he doesn't believe that second Kira is already working with the actual Kira, which is himself. So that's one of the very important things to keep in mind about that. So Light is brought in. Light is going to be working with them going forward. So with this new character, we now have determined that it is a young blonde female. She has just moved to Tokyo and is highly interested in meeting Kira. So with that being the case, we get to where she wants to do something to get Kira's attention, right? So in the midst of that, we have the NPA who have decided that they're going to actually put something out to draw the attention of the second Kira. So they put out their own broadcast into the radio stations, and they profess that their own perspective, which gets her, excited to feel as though, okay, Kira's actually speaking to me. What I found interesting was, and again, this is probably just Ryuzaki being Ryuzaki, but he has Light actually write what note he's sending out there so that Kira is actually taking the opportunity to respond. And of course, this is something that they approved of so that he could do it, but they're making it seem as though Kira is now doing the same thing that second Kira started doing, which is using the radio, the broadcasting TV stations to be able to get his message out, right? So with that gets the second Kira more and more interested. So they send in a response. The response is, however, something to set up for them to be able to meet. So it is a note from a diary to encourage them to meet. And from the way that the note is written, it's as if they're originally suggesting that they meet at one of the Tokyo stadiums so that they could come together and meet. Now, the thing that's so puzzling about setting them up to meet is it makes it extremely hard for them to meet. You're broadcasting this so the police know, so they're able to go ahead and set up station there, so you're going to be surrounded by cops. Two, the other instance that's reflecting in there is that there is, it could cause the people to want to not even meet there, right? So it's not really helping anything to put this information out there, right? So with them being detectives, of course, there are some dates and there's some locations that correlate with what Second Cure is trying to say, how they met before, what they have in common, right? So they're promoting these things. So they are suspecting, if we go to these locations on these dates, like were written here, we might have the opportunity to see Kira. We might have the opportunity to even see Second Kira. One thing, as I press a pause here, I want to double back to something that happened when they were going forward to one of the things that happened in this instance as well that I think is very important. I have to correct myself. I really got to make sure I'm speaking clearly. So one of the things that happened here that was very deep is that Second Kira spoke about the Shinigami. Second Kira mentioned how the Shinigami were involved in this. And now this took L by surprise. I don't know exactly how to analyze that. And what I mean by that is, what's the symbolism with L being so surprised? We already knew in volume 2, he already expressed that he suspected that there's a supernatural involvement. What could that supernatural be? He was unsure. But for them to say Shinigami, otherwise known as Soul Reapers, for their perspective, why would they be involved in this? Are they actually real? So that's kind of where the mind of L was actually going in this moment, right? And they even make mention of the notebook in the message that Second Kira was writing. Now what this does is it puts Light in a rock and a hard place, because now they're saying stuff that they shouldn't be saying, that's going to broadcast what they are working with, which makes things even harder to do what they're doing, because now they do research on Shinigami, they'll do research on those sightings, they'll do research and determine, maybe there's a notebook involved, which will make them, with their suspicions of Light, make them double back and go look for that notebook, right? So this is going to make everything a lot more complicated. So that's one of the other important things about that. So going back to the note, right, they have decided that they're going to try and set up camp in these locations to try and catch the Second Kira. And even more so, hopefully catch the actual Kira, if Kira's dumb enough to actually show up where the police will be located, right? So that Light can get ahead of the game, Light puts himself out there to go to these locations. So Light goes to these locations, he sets it up even more. So he demonstrates his intelligence for his fellow NPA officers, which makes them less suspicious of him. He's like, man, he went so far, he's demonstrating so much knowledge. I don't get how L could even suspect him, right? Because he comes up with a plan of bringing some of his friends from high school along so that they could kind of cover up, their presence. So we learn with the young lady that has made herself known. I don't know if she's given her name yet. That's why I haven't given her name yet. But she is actually there. The thing about her actually being there is she's went in disguise. She's wearing a wig, she's wearing makeup, glasses, a school uniform, and she's watching. The thing about her watching is she identifies that she has the eyes and she can see the names. The thing about being able to see names is she can see Light's name. But even more so specific about the Shinigami abilities, which wasn't made evident to Light in the beginning, was that not only can they see the name, they can also see the lifespan of a person other than someone that has the book. That's how she was able to identify Light out of everyone in the town, in this area that they were at. I think it's Aoyama is where they were located at this moment. So she was able to identify him, right? So they double back, and of course they met on every day, and they didn't get anything out of meeting on each one of those days. So with that being the case, of course, this ends in a very complicated place where Light doesn't know what to do to reduce the suspicions, for one, and two, how can I get on top of the Second Kira who's said too much, who's revealed a little bit too much, who's doing all of these dumb things? Because remember, as far as they understand it, she sent out these tapes to be broadcasted. She's done killed police officers, which in this case would be innocent people. Light has killed innocent people, but only to the risk of reducing who he is, not just to simply get a message out there, right? He's not killing innocent people off for that reason. So with that being the case here, that leads to him being frustrated with Second Kira and not knowing if Second Kira is on his side. Two, it leads to, more frustration around why the Second Kira is, broadcasting all of this information so willy-nilly. So should I be comfortable with this person? Is this person on my side? Is this person against me? I don't know what to think of them. And so Second Kira, after what happened in Aoyama, the next day sent out, as of the 24th of that date, whatever month or date they were on at that time, sent out a message saying, I found you, right? So this makes things worse on Light, because Light's now, well, what the heck are you doing? Are you really on my side? I don't know what to think in this moment, right? Because they're putting out there now that if you seen Kira on one of these times and could identify me, then all they have to do is isolate it to this location, all the people that were in this location, to then come and pinpoint and suspect me even more. Remember, 5% can go up pretty easy with L. All he needs is just one credible, evident piece to make him think even more of Light, right? So this is increasing the suspicions. So then they're trying to plan around what they're going to do when it comes to meeting at the stadium, and to get ahead of this thing. Light doesn't know what to do. Ryuzaki doesn't fully know what to do because, again, second Kira is trying to kill off L for Kira, which is making things a bit more complicated. I want to lead into this actual new character. So this character is Misa Amane. She is a pop star, which we'll end up revealing later. She's a very famous pop star, actually. She's very popular in other countries. She's not so popular in this location. That's why she's not recognized immediately, but she's actually pretty popular. So with her being obsessed with Kira and doing things for Kira, we're going to get into a bit of what leads up into this. And one of the factors that leads to her doing the things that she is doing is she's meeting with her Shinigami, who is, I think the name was Remy. And the thing about Remy is, Remy observed one of the Shinigami that was actually looking over her. This Shinigami fell in love with her. And so there's new rules to being a Shinigami that are revealed in this instance. Because the Shinigami was every day watching Misa, right? In the midst of watching her, he caught in the moment the time when she was supposed to die, which was going to be by an obsessed stalker who was going to kill her if she didn't love him back, which she didn't. So before her actually getting killed, which was her time, he ends up killing the killer that was going to kill her, right? And two things with this, right? Since he killed someone that was going to end her life, which is the ending of her lifespan, he instead extended it by saving her. So in turn, what that leads to happening is the Shinigami himself dies, and the lifespan that he gained from the kills that he's done through his notebook ends up being added instead to her lifespan. These are some details that I didn't know, and this got me tripping because there's so many factors that's going into this. So this leads to her getting his lifespan, and we have no idea what that number is. Now that's something important to keep in mind too. We don't know what the number is of lifespan that he had before he died, and now that gets added to her lifespan. Because keep in mind, she has the eyes now. And for her to have the eyes, she sacrifices half her lifespan. So how much life does this young girl have? We don't know. That's the part that's got me tripping. We don't know. So, and the other thing with that too is, Remy decides that because his life was so valued, let me give this notebook to you because his life went to you, so his book should go to you too. That's really how he's treating this. She's treating this. Remy is a female Shinigami. That's another point to make too. That's a bit weird. She's a female Shinigami. So because she's given the notebook to Misa, she's provided all this information to Misa, so Misa knows a lot more, and in one essence, to as far as Shinigami behavior, than Light actually does, right? So that makes Misa show some level of value in this moment for us as viewers, is she's not just some dumb kid with the book now. And that's one of the concerns with thinking, Light got the book. Yes, we got it in the hands of a smart person, so not everybody's dying. Oh no, we got it in this person that's willing to kill officers just to prove to Kira that they're, in line with Kira. But that's not the case here. She's showing herself to be a bit more knowledgeable than Kira actually is, in the sense of navigating here. She's being rather strategic. She was able to find out his identity without being identified. She knows more about how to use what she has before she uses it. So it makes you think, she didn't just jump on to get the eyes regardless. She actually thought, this is how much life I got. This is how much life I can burn through. I think there's a lot more wisdom being shown to her as a character and as a young woman, even though she's obsessed with Kira. So with all that she's done, the decision has been made to make her identity known to Kira. So instead of turning herself in, because the NPA also puts out that they want to make a deal with second Kira to reveal the identity of actual Kira, and then we'll do a pardon. But instead of going to them, she goes straight to Light. She introduces herself. The family's confused. Where does this girl come from? He's got a girlfriend. Oh my goodness. He even made a joke the night before, because this was not planned. This is all Misa. This was not planned by Light. He made a joke the night before saying, I was just at a hotel with my girlfriend. So now the mother and daughter, his mother and his sister don't know what to think of him. And then this girl shows up to return his notebook. So in the moment that they meet, she gives the notebook to him, lets him touch it, and he got to see Remy now. So now he can identify the second Shinigami that's in this. So she shows herself to Light. And in this moment, what's crazy is She shows herself to be smarter than she seems. As far as we've read from volume 3 all the way through to now, she's shown herself to be much smarter than she actually is, right? Of course, she demonstrates primarily that she has this obsession and love for Kira because Kira actually, because her parents were killed by a robber at a convenience store, she wanted some form of revenge for her family. And Kira was the one that dished out that revenge. So she is dedicated her life to that, being that he fulfilled something that she wanted so deeply down in her heart. So she loves him and she's obsessed with him. She even asked him to be her boyfriend, right? But she shows herself to be smart. So Kira is questioning everything that she's done up to this point. Why did she make the decisions she made? Why did you kill police officers? She's like, don't throw that on me, because I wasn't doing it because I wanted to just kill off police officers. I was doing this to further what it is that you're trying to do because I value that what you're trying to do, right? So then he even goes to question, how do you handle tapes? How did you handle sending these in? Because the police officers have fingerprints. We even identified in volume, I believe, like around the middle of volume 3, when all of this started to go off, that they identified small fingers, so they could actually have figured out that this was actual female hands that used this, right? So that's something else to keep in mind. But she reveals that I had a friend that works in tape manipulation and audio and things like that, and she deceived her friend into using her fingerprints instead of her own so that she couldn't be identified. So she did some cover-up to make sure she couldn't be figured out, right? And so then he questions, what did you do to even figure out who I am? All they got to do is check the cameras to find you, and then they'll find us, and then they'll figure out from you coming over here that you're here. So I don't know what you're doing. I can't tell if you're smart. I can't tell if you're against me. I don't know. And she's like, why are you questioning me so hard? Look, I even covered up who I was. She showed him pictures to show him who she was in that moment so they couldn't identify her, right? Because she is solely dedicated to Light. And this leads to Light saying, I won't be your boyfriend, but I can act like I am, and we can continue with what we have. Now, here's something that people love about the Death Note series. You get an instance where you see the darkness of who Light really is. The Kira aspect of him is made evident, because as he's embracing her, his eyes go black. There's a dark aura about his character in that moment. And both Shinigami are observing this. Now, Remy, of course, is on the opposite side of this. Now, here's what's deep. Remy's on the opposite side of this, so Remy doesn't know the truth of who Kira is, right? Now, Ryuk does, but Remy does not. Interestingly enough, Remy is white and Ryuk is black. I think this is important, and I want to save another video before talking about this. We're going to end here for part 1 for volume 4, but one of the things I want to get into is what's the significance of Misa Amane when we're talking about how, who Kira represents, who L represents, who the Shinigami represent. That's one of the things that we are keeping in mind, right? So when I say that, I'm saying, remember, Kira is, at least in my opinion, he represents what people believe a god to be. And then we have the Shinigami who represent that sin nature, and they feed into that. They are just witnesses of that. They support that. So that's why he's doing what he's doing. So that's some of the things to keep in mind. But what would that then make Misa Amane? And that's how I want to start off our next video. What does that mean if Kira is the image of God that people want him to be, or that people want God to actually represent? What would that make Misa Amane to represent when she's so obsessed with this God that people perceive God needs to be, right? So we'll double back to that. I'm going to make sure that I link into this video all of this feedback so that we can look into this a bit deeper. Thank you guys. Y'all have a blessed day.